Welcome to another suggestion review, and today, I'm taking a look at two different suggestions that all want to make some kind of change to the game, unlike other suggestions so far which have been movesets or modifications to characters in the game. Some changes are relatively minor, while some are huge, but there's definitely something to talk about for all of them. Before we get into the video though, make sure to subscribe for more JJS yapping, and now, let's take a look at the suggestions. The first suggestion is from Blondie on Discord, who wants to do a rework on domains, and a pretty huge one at that. I'll go over each change they make, and my thoughts on them one by one. The first change is giving domains iframes during deployment. By this, they mean that after the 19th frame startup during domain deployment, the user gains invincibility to prevent them from being interrupted, with their justification being that since you only get a one-time use for your domain, it shouldn't be that easily counterable. He further justifies it by saying that domains should feel like a trump card to force whoever they're used on into a situation that they have to respond to. To counteract this a bit, the deployment speed will be nerfed a bit, so people will have more time to react, but the range should also be increased by a bit as well. Here's my problem with this. First, the current system, which has domains be interruptible for the whole animation, makes it so that people don't throw out their domains all willy-nilly, and actually use them as a game-ending conditional that they have to work for. This suggestion replaces that whole purpose and changes it to being an OP ultimate in your awakening that you don't need to think about too much. While it's a matter of my own personal opinion, the domain system shouldn't be messed with because forcing people to think about using their domains so that they don't get interrupted makes it more fun than if you could just pop it and immediately win. Even with the deployment speed nerf, the range being increased makes it even more inescapable up close, and since the suggestion removes the whole risk of being interrupted for using a domain in someone's face, there really isn't much you can do. Again, it's a matter of my own personal opinion, but domains shouldn't be something you can just pop when someone's close to you for a free kill. As the saying goes, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Other than that, there's a damage boost while inside your domain, which to me feels unnecessary and almost like it was tacked on to make the suggestion longer. It doesn't impact any awakening besides Hikari and maybe Gojo, and domains are all strong enough that there's literally no need for a 20% damage boost. Mahito's domain works around an instant kill gimmick, so he gets nothing from this. Sukuna is just gonna kill you anyways regardless of a damage boost or not, and while it might help Gojo get the kill easier, he usually kills anyone stuck inside his domain with 2 moves. Hikari gets a benefit since his domain doesn't buff him, but at that point, it's not a domain buff and just a Hikari buff, which even then I disagree with. The 20% damage boost is like pouring a cup into a lake. It does nothing for most characters in the game, and really has no reason to exist. After that is a gimmick for domains, which makes it so you have to stay above red health, or else your domain will collapse, unless you're Hikari. This gimmick once again feels like something tacked on for no reason. Gojo can't be hit in his domain, so he's not actually impacted by this. Mahito will one-shot anyone who tries attacking him, and while it might actually do something for Sukuna, or against him rather, it's a Mahito situation unless the Sukuna uses domain at orange health. There's no reason for this to exist, once again, and it also stops people from making fun comeback moments when they get to use their domain. It might be somewhat canon, but from a gameplay standpoint, it doesn't fit in. The next gimmick is domain burnout, making it so that after a domain collapses, all of the user's moves go on a cooldown that depends on if they're a sorcerer or a curse, with sorcerers having a 25-second cooldown and curses having a 20-second cooldown. Again, I dislike this and it doesn't fit. It might be canon for sure, since there's a whole technique burnout thing in JJK, but not getting to do anything for 25 seconds is just boring. That was the whole reason Mahito was, and still somewhat is, a boring character to play in his awakening, because you just use your conditionals and fists, and couldn't really do anything but run during that cooldown period. It's not fun to be some massive punching bag, even if it's canon, and the lower cooldown on curses is also another thing that feels completely unnecessary, and is just tacked on there for a cool factor or to add some more text as a suggestion. After that is the counterbalance for curses having a shorter cooldown, which is a slower deployment speed. But I have to say again, why is there a difference between sorcerers and curses? Not only do I not remember any of that being canon in JJK, but gameplay-wise it makes no sense either. Same sentiments here as what I've said before, I don't like it. Finishing things off is domain entry, and this is something I actually do like. Instead of destroying domains with M1 strings, they should instead make cracks in the domain that let people enter but not leave, kind of like how Shadowstorm works. And for Hikari's domain, it should require more M1 strings to make a crack. I find the idea actually really cool, and it makes sense from a canon standpoint since Yuji did that to Mahito in their first fights. It's not too overpowered, since you can't really enter a domain without dying, but it'd still be a fun thing you could do if you just want to try surging a Sukuna with like 20 base Yujis while they're in the domain or something. It sounds fun, and I genuinely like this part. It's just a shame that the other parts of the suggestion feel so haphazard and unnecessary. Now, let's take a look at another suggestion by Recall, who wants to add a base black flash mechanic to the game. Each M1 has a 0.5% chance to do a black flash, and if you're low, it goes up to a 1.5% chance instead. If you hit a black flash, you get a higher chance to hit more, and it only works in combat so that you can't cheese it by punching a dummy or something. First, I've got a ton of problems with the suggestion, but let's start with the content of it itself. The author doesn't write out what a black flash even does, besides giving you, quote, a bit of heal, and a much larger percentage to land black flashes. I could assume it's just more damage, but it's already a problem that there isn't an effect here. Other than that, I have problems with what I can see here, and it mostly has to do with my own personal distaste towards pointless RNG mechanics. It's basically a critical hit in Pokemon. There's no player input in it, or any kind of skill, it's just something that happens. And while it might be fun to land it because, ooh, I got lucky, it's not going to be fun on both ends because the other person feels nothing except frustration from getting screwed over by RNG. Fighting games based on skill usually don't implement pure RNG mechanics like this because they turn something based on skill into something based on luck. And even if the low chance, it still is nothing more than some RNG mechanic with no player input. I'm fine with Hikari's because it encourages you to land moves to have a chance at getting jackpot, and there's a pity system to help you out too. With this, it's just something that'll happen while you're fighting normally, which is boring. It's a matter of my own opinion, but pure RNG mechanics in fighting games that are just straightforward buffs at random are boring. An example of what could be fun RNG, and I'm going off platform for this, but just bear with me, is Chester's Super in Brawl Stars. What you get is random, sure, but you can still adapt to what you get, even if the super isn't the one you want. You aren't screwed over or given a win based on RNG, just forced to adapt your plays depending on what you get. This, on the other hand, is just some straight buff with no player input that's based around RNG, and not something that people can play around. It's boring RNG. As a whole, both of these suggestions make modifications to the game that aren't really all that necessary. The first changes a system that's already working fine and implements a bunch of random buffs and gimmicks that don't really have a place besides breaking into domains with M1s, while the second implements an RNG mechanic that basically changes nothing about gameplay and doesn't let players interact with it in any meaningful way. Both suggestions end up not being necessary in any kind of way for the game, and while there will be people who disagree with me on this, they're not suggestions I can see being put into the game. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have anything meaningful to say, keyword meaningful, go ahead and say it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like the video, since it helps me continue to create content. And thank you for watching. I'm Noob Eternally, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.